The story begins with Somi peacefully sleeping in her bed. But as soon as she opens her eyes, she freezes, because she finds a very handsome boy sleeping next to her. Startled, she jumps up, her heart racing. Who are you and what are you doing in my bed? The boy groggily opens his eyes and, instead of explaining, he simply frowns. Why are you making so much noise so early in the morning? Somi, blinking in confusion, thinks to herself, wait, did I sleep with this guy? Oh no! But then memories from the previous night come rushing back. Yesterday, she found out that her boyfriend was cheating on her. Her friend had sent her a video of him with another girl, and in her heartbreak, she drank a little too much. That's when she saw something unbelievable, a mysterious, unbelievably handsome merman. The moment she laid eyes on him, she fainted and fell right into his arms. The merman carried her home, placed her in bed, and then slept next to her. Now, standing in front of her, the boy steps out of bed, and as he does, Somi watches in shock. His shimmering tail transforms into legs. I am the crown prince of the mermen of Atolia, he says smoothly. My name is Miho. Somi is still trying to process everything when Miho takes a step closer. His deep gaze makes her feel nervous, and she instinctively takes a step back. If you're a prince, then give me your parents' number. They can come take you home. But Miho only smiles. That won't be necessary. I'll leave when my mission is complete. Somi sighs, already regretting this strange situation. But before she can argue, Miho asks her for some clothes. A little later, now wearing Somi's oversized clothes, which by the way look ridiculously funny on his tall frame, Miho is ready to leave. But just as she pushes him toward the door, he stops. I can't leave yet. Somi folds her arms. Let me guess, you forgot your underwater passport? Miho gives her a look before finally telling her his story. When I was young, my sister and I accidentally revealed our true forms to a human. He saw my tail, and in my fear, I attacked him. Later, my sister told me something shocking. He was my soulmate. And now I must find him, kiss him, and complete my mission. Miho's eyes glisten with tears, but as soon as they fall, they turn into pearls. Somi gasps in surprise, bending down to pick up one of the pearls. It's real. A slow smile appears on her lips. You know, she says, it's not safe for you to be outside. Maybe you should stay here for a while. Miho looks at her, surprised. You mean it? Yes, Somi nods, glancing at the pearl in her hand. But in return, you have to cry for me. Somi sits down comfortably. Go on, tell me another sad story, she says, looking all too pleased into his emotional story, his voice soft and serious. But Somi? She was too busy collecting his precious pearl tears, stuffing them into her pocket like a professional treasure hunter. Priorities, right? Still, she looked up, curious. Okay, but how are we supposed to find this soulmate of yours? Miho smiled, a little too confidently. I've already found him. Somi blinked. Huh. He studies in your school, Miho continued, as if that was the most normal thing in the world. And I've heard you help people. So, you have to help me too. Somi sighed, rubbing her temples. Fine. But in return, you have to help me too. And with that, she dragged Miho to her sketch class. But instead of handing him a pencil and paper, she made him stand on the table, like some ancient Greek statue, so all the students could sketch him. Of course, his ridiculously perfect face and body had the whole class mesmerized, and Somi, being the business-minded genius she was, collected money from every student for the privilege of drawing him. It was all going great, until Miho suddenly bolted out of the room. Hey! Where are you going? Somi ran after him, finally catching up. What's wrong with you? Miho's expression was serious. I can smell him. The person who saw me in my real form. But I can't see him anywhere. Before Miho could answer, they were interrupted by a group of girls, led by none other than Somi's ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend. Oh, look who it is, the girl sneered. You look like a shrew. You're gonna die single, you know that? No one would ever want you. Somi clenched her fists, ready to retort, but before she could say anything, Miho strolled up to her, all casual and princely. Why aren't you answering my calls, he said in an exaggeratedly dramatic voice. Are you really still mad at me over something so small? Somi froze. Wait, what is he doing? Before she could ask, Miho reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of pearls. Expensive, real pearls. And just for dramatic effect, he dropped them on the ground right in front of the girls. Then, as if that wasn't enough, Miho looked Somi straight in the eyes and said, "I love you, Somi." And just like that, the girls' faces twisted in pure jealousy. Somi didn't know whether to laugh or scream. This guy is insane. Still, she decided to roll with it. She grabbed Miho's arm and walked away like she owned the place. On their way home, as they were walking, a speeding car passed by a muddy puddle. Just as the water was about to splash onto them, Miho grabbed Somi, lifted her up, and moved her aside. For a second, Somi's heart skipped a beat. Was he protecting me? But then, splash. The muddy water hit her instead. She stood there, dripping in dirty water, staring at Miho. He, on the other hand, looked completely fine. And he had the audacity to sigh in relief. "Thank God," Miho muttered. "I'm safe." Somi's jaw dropped. "You stupid waterman. Why did you do that?" Miho, completely unfazed, replied, "If water touches my feet, I'll turn back into a merman. Obviously, I had to save myself first." Somi groaned, ready to strangle him. But before she could, a car door opened and a handsome young man stepped out. "I'm so sorry," he said sincerely, walking over to Somi. "I didn't mean to splash you." Somi was about to wave him off, but she suddenly noticed something weird. Miho was staring at the guy. Like really staring. And then, without warning, Miho walked up to him way too close for comfort. "It's fine," Miho said. Somi yanked him back. "Excuse me? Personal space." The guy chuckled. "I'm Chank. I study marine biology at your college. If you ever need anything, here's my number." Somi took the paper, nodding politely. Before she could say anything, Miho snatched the number from her hands. Back at home. The second they stepped inside, Miho turned to Somi, his face serious. "That guy," he said, "he's the one. He's the human who saw me in my real form when I was young." Somi's eyes widened. "Wait, so what are you gonna do now?" Miho smirked. "Kiss him." "What?" 3 times, Miho clarified. "Once I do that, my mission is complete, and I can return home." Somi gaped at him. "And how exactly are you planning to do that?" Instead of answering, Miho puckered his lips and made dramatic kissing noises at her. Somi shrieked, dodging out of the way. "Stop that, you weird fish." Miho laughed and did it again, just to tease her. That was it. Somi grabbed his ear and twisted. "You're the most annoying merman I've ever met," she grumbled. Miho just grinned. "You've met more than one?" Determined to complete his mission, Miho and Somi started digging for information about Chank. Turns out, along with being a marine biology student, he also worked at the aquarium. So, naturally, they came up with a foolproof plan to get that kiss. They arrived at the aquarium, where Miho dramatically lay down on the stairs, pretending to be unconscious. Chank, being the kind-hearted guy he was, immediately rushed over. "Are you okay?" Miho didn't move. Chank checked for breathing. Nothing. Panicking, he started performing chest compressions. Still no reaction. Chank took a deep breath, preparing to give CPR. But just as he leaned in, splash. A janitor accidentally spilled a bucket of water. In a split second, Miho's eyes flew open, and he sprinted away like his life depended on it. Chank blinked, confused. What just happened? Somi, watching from the sidelines, sighed. After Miho's epic failure at the aquarium, Somi decided to take matters into her own hands. This time, her plan was simple: push Chank down the stairs so he'd fall right into Miho's arms. Classic rom-com move, right? Except, Miho had other ideas. The second Chank stumbled forward, about to land on him, Miho panicked and jumped out of the way, like a cat avoiding a bath. Crash! Chank landed flat on the floor. Miho, nowhere to be seen. Somi stood there, jaw clenched, staring at the empty space where Miho should have been. Seriously? She rushed to Chank's side, forcing an apologetic smile. Sorry about that. Chank sat up, rubbing his shoulder. "What exactly are you doing here?" Somi's eyes darted around until she spotted a job vacancy sign on the wall. Without missing a beat, she pointed at it. "I'm here for a job." While in her head, she was plotting all the ways she was going to murder Miho. Back at home, Somi did exactly what she had planned. She attacked Miho. "You ran away? Again?" she yelled, hitting him with a pillow repeatedly. "Ow. Stop, human." Miho shielded himself. "I had to. There's a monster outside your house. It's a threat to my life." Somi raised an eyebrow. "A monster?" Miho nodded frantically. "Yes. It has sharp claws, glowing eyes, and it growled at me." Somi sighed and walked to the window. When she looked outside, she nearly burst out laughing. It was a cat. Miho is afraid of cats. This was priceless. Oh, I see, she said, suppressing a smirk. This is very serious. We must do something about this terrifying beast. Before Miho could react, she shoved him outside and slammed the door shut. Miho banged on the door. Don't leave me with the demon. The next evening, Somi found herself at a bar with Chank, sipping on drinks and enjoying a casual conversation. Meanwhile, Miho was there too, hiding in the background, spying on them like a jealous ex. Somi, however, was getting very drunk. She leaned in close to Chank, her voice slurring slightly. You know, mermaids are real. Miho, sitting at a distance, started waving his hands in warning. Shut up, shut up, shut up. But Somi, oblivious, continued. This girl is going to expose me. Just then, Somi's head wobbled, and before she could say another word, she fainted. Miho took this as his cue. The moment Chank got up to go to the bathroom, Miho swooped in, picked Somi up, and carried her out of the bar. As they walked home, he looked down at her and sighed. Why did you drink so much? Somi, half conscious, mumbled, I didn't want you to turn into stone. Miho blinked, surprised. She was thinking about me? The next morning, a knock on the door woke Somi up. When she opened it, she found a beautiful woman standing outside. I'm Miho's sister, the woman said with a polite smile. Somi, still groggy, widened her eyes. Wait! Miho has a sister. She led her inside, but the moment Miho saw her, his face drained of color. He grabbed Somi's wrist and dragged her to his room. Pack your things, he whispered urgently. Somi frowned. What? Why? She's not my sister, she's a witch, he whispered. Somi rolled her eyes. Oh my god, not this again. Before Miho could argue, she shoved him back inside the room and shut the door. Out in the living room, his sister sat down gracefully. Miho stormed out of the room, glaring. Why are you here? This is my house. Go away. She smirked. I came to check your progress. Miho proudly pulled out his phone and showed her a picture of Chank. I'm this close to kissing him. His sister gave him a blank stare. You're hopeless. Somi, meanwhile, grabbed her bag. I'm leaving for work. She turned to Chank, who was waiting outside, and they left together. Naturally, Miho and his sister followed them. Jealousy hits hard. At the aquarium, Miho watched, fuming, as Chank and Somi chatted happily. Look at them, Miho muttered. They look cute together, his sister teased. Miho scowled. I don't like your attitude. Fueled by irritation, Miho pretended to trip and accidentally pushed Somi into the water. Splash! Somi gasped, flailing. Before she could sink, Chank immediately jumped in to save her. Miho stood at the edge, arms crossed. Great! That backfired. Later that night, Chank dropped Somi off at home and, as a parting gift, handed her a small fish in a bowl. It's so beautiful. Miho, who had been eavesdropping, scowled. Oh, so you think he's beautiful? You think a fish is beautiful? He scoffed. And yet, the most handsome merman in the world gets no compliments? Unbelievable. Somi rolled her eyes. I'm in a good mood today. Don't ruin it. She started walking to her room, but Miho followed her. Somi stopped at her door, blocking him. Oh no, you're not coming in. Miho pouted. Why not? Before she could answer, his sister shoved him inside the room and slammed the door shut. Somi's eyes widened. Hey! Open the door. Nope, his sister said from the other side. You two need some bonding time. Somi groaned, turning to Miho. This is your fault. Miho just shrugged and flopped onto her bed. Well, I'm sleeping here. Oh no, you're not. Somi started shaking him. In the end, they compromised by putting up a curtain between them. Somi shivered, curling up under her blanket. Another flash of lightning made her flinch. Without thinking, she reached out and grabbed Miho's hand. Miho's eyes opened slightly, feeling her fingers intertwine with his. For a moment, he just stared at her, the corners of his lips twitching up. And just like that, they fell asleep hand in hand. The next morning, Somi groggily opened her eyes and stretched. On the other side of the bed, Miho was still sleeping soundly, looking almost too peaceful. Oh, so we're playing dead now? Without hesitation, she leaned in and bit his hand. Ow! Miho bolted upright, clutching his hand. Are you a human or a wild animal? Somi smirked. You weren't waking up. Ignoring her, Miho's eyes landed on the open bedroom door. Wait! He jumped out of bed and ran outside, but his sister was gone. Instead, there was a letter on the table along with a shopping card. Miho picked up the letter and read it aloud. Miho, do what your heart tells you. Find your soulmate. Oh, and buy something nice for yourself. At the aquarium, Miho finally saw his chance. He leaned in, ready to kiss Chank and complete his mission. But just as their lips were about to touch, a beaker of water from a nearby worker mink spilled all over Miho's feet. His eyes widened in pure horror. Before his body could start changing, he jumped onto the trolley and Somi threw a giant cloth over him. She raced out of the aquarium. Meanwhile, Chank stood frozen, watching the scene unfold. Why does Miho avoid water so much? And then it hit him. His childhood memory, the mysterious merman he saw all those years ago. It's him. Miho is the merman I've been searching for. Back home, Somi was fuming. What were you thinking? She scolded. If Chank had seen your feet, who knows what would have happened? Miho, trying to lighten the mood, held up the shopping card. Want to go shopping? I'll buy you food. Fine. And just like that, they were off. After an afternoon of shopping, the two of them sat on a park bench, enjoying a warm breeze. Miho looked at Somi, a small smile playing on his lips. I've finally succeeded in my mission. Somi paused mid-bite. Huh. But, he sighed dramatically. I don't want to leave. She blinked. Why not? He leaned closer, whispering, because I really like your cooking. Somi rolled her eyes. That's the only reason. Miho just smirked, giving her a knowing look. Elsewhere, Chank sat alone, deep in thought. Years ago, when he had seen Miho's true form, he had told everyone. But no one had believed him. People had laughed, called him crazy. So he made a decision. He would dedicate his life to proving that mermen exist. And now, the very creature he had been searching for was right in front of him. The next day, Somi was in her sketch class when Chank walked in. She handed him an envelope. This is my resignation letter. Chank frowned. You're quitting. I don't have time for work and studies, she said simply. Chank hesitated before asking, who's that guy who stays with you? Somi stiffened. What? He's weird. And yesterday he kissed me. Somi nearly choked. Oh, she said quickly. He's just my landlord. He's mentally unstable. That's why he does weird things. Chank didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. Later, as Somi left the college, it had started pouring outside. She had forgotten her umbrella. As she stood there, contemplating whether she should make a run for it, Chank appeared behind her. Here, he said, holding up his umbrella. Come with me. At the same time, Miho was walking toward her, holding a small umbrella and a packed lunch. His heart stopped when he saw her walking away with Chank. He clenched his fists. Why does this bother me so much? Meanwhile, under the umbrella, Chank took a deep breath. Somi, he said softly. She looked up. I like you. Somi's eyes widened. She hesitated, then looked away. I'm sorry. She stepped out from under the umbrella and walked away, leaving Chank standing there in the rain. From a distance, Miho watched, and for the first time he realized. This wasn't just about his mission anymore. He didn't just want to stay here. He wanted to stay with her. When Somi returned home, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on the table where a small note lay. Her heart dropped. She picked it up, and beside it, she noticed something strange. She read the note with trembling hands. Goodbye. That was it. Just one word. Somi stood frozen. Why did he leave without saying a word? Her chest tightened. She had been upset with him before, but she never thought he would just leave. Did she push him away? Meanwhile, Miho had gone to his sister, ready to leave forever. Take me back, he said firmly. Somi and Ching are together. There's no reason for me to stay. His sister raised an eyebrow. Oh? And how exactly did you come to that conclusion? I saw them, under the umbrella. She sighed. So you ran away without even asking? Miho frowned. Listen, she continued. The way she cares for you, I highly doubt she doesn't love you. Miho shook his head. It doesn't matter. My mission is done. I kissed Ching. His sister smirked. Miho, your mission was to find a soulmate. Not a random person to kiss. He blinked. Wait, so I can change my target? She face-bombed. Obviously. I was joking about Ching being your soulmate. Miho stood there, realization dawning on him. Without another word, he turned around and ran back to Somi. When he arrived, he found Somi sitting by the window, lost in thought. She was sketching. And not just anything. She was sketching him. Miho's breath hitched. She missed him. That day, it was raining. You didn't bring an umbrella, so I went to get you one. Somi froze. But when I saw you under Ching's umbrella, he looked away. I felt really bad. Somi's lips parted slightly. That's why he left. For a moment she just stared at him. Then, without thinking, she kissed him. Miho's eyes widened in surprise, but before he could respond, they found themselves hiding under a sheet, about to kiss again. Bang! A teacher stormed in. What are you two doing? Somi and Miho bolted out of the classroom, laughing as they ran. That night, as they sat together doing a puzzle, Somi dozed off. Miho smiled, watching her peaceful face. He leaned in and gently kissed her forehead. But Somi's eyes fluttered open. Did you just kiss me? Miho blinked. No. Somi smirked. Liar. She sat up and handed him a small box. What's this? A watch, she said. Now you'll always know where I am. Miho grinned. So I can stalk you? Exactly. The next morning, Miho sat deep in thought. A man works to provide for his wife and children, right? He muttered. He straightened up. Then I should work too. With that, he walked into a grocery store and got a job. There, he met a bickering couple. The girl wanted to buy beer, but her boyfriend refused. Annoyed, the guy stormed off to return the beer, leaving his girlfriend at the counter. That's when she noticed Miho. You're new here, she said, eyeing him up and down. He nodded. I think I like you better than the last employee. Some girl named Somi used to work here, but after I complained, she got fired. Miho's eyes narrowed. She got Somi fired? But instead of getting mad, he put on his most charming smile. Well, if you hadn't complained, I wouldn't have this job. He winked. And I wouldn't have met a beautiful girl like you. The girl blushed. Just then, her boyfriend returned. She broke up with him on the spot. After work, the girl waited outside for Miho. I'm single now, she said sweetly. Want to be my boyfriend? Miho's eyes flashed red. She screamed and ran for her life. Miho smirked. That was fun. That night, Miho decorated the entire house, excited to surprise Somi. But when Somi arrived, Miho was nowhere to be found. His phone went unanswered. Worried, she checked his location on the watch. It led her to Ching's library. When she got there, she found Miho trapped in an aquarium, injured and weak. Her heart stopped. Ching appeared holding a scalpel. I told people mermaids exist, but no one believed me, he said darkly. They called me crazy. But now, I'll show the world the truth. Somi stepped in front of Miho. He's not some experiment. He's a living being. Ching smirked. Too bad. He belongs to me now. Somi grabbed a fire extinguisher and sprayed the room with thick smoke. She helped Miho out of the tank, and together they ran. But Ching caught them. With a knife in hand, he stepped closer. Miho turned to Somi. Do you trust me? He asked softly. Somi's eyes filled with fear, but she nodded. Miho pulled her close and jumped off the building. As they fell, Miho's body transformed into a water shield, protecting Somi before he disappeared into the ocean. Somi crashed into the water, but Miho was gone. Somi sat by the shore every day, throwing bottles with letters into the sea. One night, as she returned home, a bottle rolled toward her feet. Her breath hitched. And then, she heard water splashing in the bathroom. She ran inside. And there he was. Miho. Alive. Smiling. Holding all of her letters. Tears filled Somi's eyes. She ran to him, wrapping her arms around him. He held her close, whispering, I told you. I wouldn't leave you. And with that, their story came to a beautiful, magical end.